What's up, YouTube? So Jake Paul and Mike Tyson doing over 50 or 60 million views on Netflix. The biggest fight in a very it might be the biggest fight ever watched. 60 million people watching at one time. A boxer could only assume of getting that much could only hope for getting that much views. The highest pay-per-view is like Floyd. Nobody has ever had views that much in one night. Um, the stadium absolutely packed. The production was the best production that we've seen in a long time. PBC, really PBC. The Zone has top better production, but PBC, especially one of the Tim Zoo fights, there was not even walkout music. They just walked to the stage like nothing. The build up for fights are the walkouts, the ring. It changes the energy. The Mario Barrios, he had the Aztec warrior walkout with the names and stuff going down the walkway. Amanda Serrano had a good walk. The walkouts should be a bigger part of fights, I think. Tyson like tripped on himself walking out, and I was like, oh my god, it's already that type of fight. 50, 60 million pay-per-views. Hopefully, if you're watching the stream on Netflix, it wasn't crashing. A lot of people are mad because their streams were just like buffering, and they would have to go back out. At one point, the fight was like 2 rounds behind the real time. Um, Good fight though. Good fight. I mean, not the Jake Paul fight. I think in one of the rounds it was three or four. I knew it was fixed, not fixed, but I knew Jake Paul wasn't trying to knock him out when he had Mike Tyson wobbled. He hit him. I don't know if it was a 1-2, but he caught him nice one time, and Tyson was just his feet were gone. And you could tell he was wobbled. He lost his balance, and at that moment, Jake didn't go for the kill. I knew, okay, it's gonna go all 8 rounds, and that's respectable. It really is. As much as you can hate Jake Paul, he plays a heel. He plays a villain character. I'm grateful he didn't knock out Mike Tyson, because a full force punch from Jake Paul to Tyson at 58 years old would be deadly. Um, why would Mike Tyson take this fight? Is it, it's money, and I don't think he's embarrassed to say that. He's very in interviews. It was an interview with like a 12 11-year-old girl. And he was like cursing in the interview, saying, what's legacy, and not realizing he's talking to a child. But Mike Tyson doesn't care about legacy. All the issues he's had in his personal life, he says that his kids don't respect him. He's been robbed by so many people. I feel bad for how, Mike Tyson has been robbed blindly. And that's what goes on in boxing. These guys are fighters. They're from the streets, a lot of them. Don't know nothing about business. All they know is to fight. Tyson definitely got taken advantage of by his handlers, promoters, managers, whatever. I mean, Don King was surely had to rob him blind for millions and millions, allegedly. Um, a 58-year-old man like Mike Tyson, who's had everything. I mean, the guy used to walk around with tigers in his backyard, and now he has to fight for $20 million. It says a lot about handling finances, not being able to build the wealth, because there's no reason he should have taken this fight. Because it wasn't for legacy. It was not for legacy. He did it because he needs money, and that's sad, because these fighters, they a lot of them don't get paid much, and when they do, a lot of the fighters that do get paid a lot, they get robbed a lot. The more you get paid, the more opportunities there are to rob you. When there's Mike Tyson probably can't use a keyboard on a computer, right? And it's not to be mean or whatever, but he's not, I don't, he probably doesn't know how to use a bank app or something like that. Like this is Mike Tyson we're talking about. He's, I'm sure, had accountants and many people, and this has happened to many famous people. These accountants, they know you don't know how much money is going in. They know you don't know how much you're paying in taxes. And there's, millions and millions of money of dollars that are being stolen, robbed because you don't know. And it happens to a lot of rappers, a lot of famous people. But that's the reason why Mike took the fight. Um, I'm glad it was such a success because it's a good thing for boxing. It really is. You can't say this is bad for the sport because more eyes to the sport is a good thing. Boxing is nowhere near how popular it used to be back in the 80s and 90s. I mean, it's just a different, people don't care about boxing anymore. And it sucks because boxing and UFC are like, I feel like more people like UFC than boxing. And you would expect boxing, as boxing has been around for, over 100 years, hundreds of years, and UFC just came out. I was like, why is UFC so much more popular than boxing? You know, not some of the not all fights in UFC are exciting. A lot of them are boring. Super boring. The just this past weekend when John Jones beat Stipe, Bo Nickel, who's an up and comer, stood with a guy for 3 rounds, and the crowd was just booing the whole time because it was a boring fight. A lot of UFC fights are boring. There's only a few guys who would give exciting fights like Michael Chandler. But the reason why I think UFC is more popular is because when UFC fans know the best are fighting the best. Like there is no cherry picking in the UFC. Um, maybe with John Jones wanting to fight Alex Pereira instead of Tom Aspinall, but even then, that's not cherry picking because we're talking about Alex Pereira. The dude is a monster. So it's not like he's asking to fight a guy who sucks. He's just asking to fight a guy in a lower weight division, no different than what Tank Davis is doing with Lamont Roach, fighting a guy, wanting to fight a champion under your weight division. That's frowned upon in boxing. It usually never happens in UFC, but with UFC, the best fight the best, and that's why fans like it. That's what gives exciting fights, is when the best fight the best. Because in boxing, nobody wants Tank Davis to fight Lamont Roach. Nobody wants that. Nobody wanted Jake Paul to fight Mike Tyson, but you knew it was going to bring a lot of eyes to the sport. And with those eyes, I'm glad he put that Mario Barrio and Abel Ramos was a good fight. That was a really good fight. And the Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano fight was really good too. That's probably the most exciting fight on there. Um, and I think Katie was headbutting deliberately. Not, if you're not gonna say deliberately, she definitely didn't try to change up her style even after the first headbutt. Like if you're doing something and you headbutt somebody, wouldn't you think, maybe, I don't want to headbutt again. I don't want to hit my head. Maybe I should change something in what I'm doing. And for it to happen and for her to get the point taken away and still get the win, tough call, especially when you see Amanda Serrano landed like 100 more punches than Katie Taylor, and that's wild. But a lot of people say that Katie Taylor did win, and it was a good fight. Katie caught her clean. Amanda didn't have as good a defense, but um, I would have given that fight to Serrano. I would have. But for Jake, I'm going back to Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. Where does Jake Paul go next? Who knows? It's so unpredictable. Mike Tyson, I mean, this would obviously, hopefully be his last fight. But it's sad, and, it's a good thing and sad thing. Like, it's a good thing that 50, 60 million people watched the fight. Now, most of those people are not going to go and watch a Mario Barrios fight because they saw him on their undercard. Most people aren't going to, you know, um, buy tickets. Well, yeah, I was gonna say most people aren't gonna go out and buy pay-per-views for or tickets for Amanda Serrano. But because she's with Jake Paul, she's always gonna usually gonna be on the Jake Paul undercard, in which they would. What I mean is that the people that watch it, that doesn't mean that they're gonna go follow. You know, there's not a lot of a large percentage of people that watch the fight just watched it because it's on Netflix, because it's Mike Tyson and the nostalgia of Iron Mike Tyson, baddest man on the planet. A lot of those people are not going to go watch the other fighters. They just don't care. They're too casual to, they're only going to watch the big fights. But there's still a small percentage that will. And when you think that a small percentage of 60 million people is still a hell of a lot of people, that's still a lot of fans that these boxers gains and would gain a following of. And instead of hating on Jake Paul and saying he's bad for the sport and whatever people say, people should be wanting to get on his fight cards, right? Put your ego aside. The dude is doing what nobody else can. Put your ego aside, get on his fight card so you can get more fans, so you can grow the sport, right? That's what people should do. But instead of doing a smart business move, they are going to stick to their promotional company. Like you will never see, I don't think. Well, yeah, I was gonna say you will never see PVC on Jake Paul, but Mario Barrios, I believe, was with PVC. I'm not sure. Regardless, it was a success. God, wow, a successful event. For Netflix, they, I'm sure, pissed at their production team or whatever, not production, um, network, whoever handles the stream for the buffering and all these fans and people that wanted to watch that they couldn't because it was too many people on at one time. That's a good thing, man. That's never happened where so many people are trying to watch boxing that it literally crashed the servers on a server as big as Netflix. So successful event. It's sad that Mike Tyson had to take the fight. I'm glad he didn't. He ended safely. Um, you know, it is what it is. Everybody got their money. People got their views. Let's see what Jake Paul does next. But regardless of what you think, you can't hate Jake Paul. You can only respect him for putting on big events, putting women's boxing on his cards, trying to support his up and coming fighters with MVP. He's great for the sport. He really is. People just hate him because he's not the traditional boxer and because he's a YouTuber or whatever. But give me a boxer who is right now who is doing what he does, right? Why doesn't Tank put on his own GTD promotions fight and have an amazing card like that and put it on Netflix and have 50 million people watch? Why? Why can Jake Paul do that but someone in boxing can't? Like Gervonta, who was quick to tweet on Jake Paul calling him a bozo and stuff, but meanwhile, nobody wants to see your fight, and you're fighting somebody who's in a weight class under you who has no chance of winning. So that's all I got for you guys. Successful event. Tyson, Jake Paul. Peace.